Okay, people, here we are again. Inspiration Monday. I figured we could never have enough inspiration. Nika, I don't even have you in the green room now. I just have you here because we have to get right into it.
Because it's the David and Nika show.
It's the David and Nika show. Hey, make that a thing. Hey, for those who don't know me, my name is David Rendelstein. I'm the owner of Thin Tech Weight Loss, and I just like to have conversations with random people. But today, I'm having a conversation with Nika, not a random person by any stretch, an old friend of mine. A longtime friend of mine. And Nika, why don't you tell everyone who you are?
Well, last week you said before I came on that Diana Prince was coming on, and I have to admit that I had no idea who
Did you
that
look
was.
it up?
I looked it up. So
Yes.
I like that you said it, and I'm embarrassed to not know who that was. Wonder Woman. I love that.
That's right.
So like
Yes.
Clark Kent. So I'm Clark Kent. I
No.
appreciate.
You're Wonder Woman. If anyone's Clark Kent, it's me.
Oh, right. Okay. So you're Clark Kent. I'm Diana Prince. I love that. So it's the Clark and Diana show. Um, and I am so excited to talk to your audience and sharing to my audience. And who am I? I am an entrepreneur, a mother, a wife, a friend, a daughter, and I help people shine
You
online.
see, I just said that all by saying Diana Prince.
Oh,
Instead of
okay.
getting into the detail, I was being very efficient with my words. Um, so this is what I want to do first. There's a lot for us to get into. First thing I want to do is I want to see if I can summarize what we discussed last week. So you, of course, have written an amazing book called Actually I Can, which is climbing up the Amazon charts. And the premise of the book is that when you were diagnosed with cancer some years ago, instead of being put on that conveyor belt that most people go on, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how you're supposed to feel, all of that, you said, screw it, I'm not having any of that. And you basically put into practice what I believe has been your life philosophy. I don't think you just came up with it, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, which is I'm the one that gets to choose. I'm the author of my reality. And you were able to use it as a very forwarding experience for you and for your millions of followers who you inspire. Now, did I accurately pick up what you were putting down?
Yeah, I love it. And millions of views. Not every million view followed me. So I have hundreds of thousands of followers, but I appreciate the future pacing
It's
of millions
inevitable.
of
Yeah.
followers. Yeah. And I think that it was always my philosophy that we get to choose our own stories. We get to write our own stories. We get to choose our own feelings. And despite all the stuff that we have no control over, we get to still write our own life stories. But yes, and cancer was what helped me prove it in a big way. So now like I have no excuse. When I'm having a bad day, I could rewrite it if I want because I already proved it. So it's kind of tough. It's like, oh, unfortunately, I can't. Well, we can all have bad days, but I have no excuse for giving away my power and letting other outside circumstances determine who I am. I have no.
Nika, is that where this comes from? Is it just a sense of your own power as a woman, or is it just an innate rebelliousness? What happened? How did you get to that point?
I love that you said rebellious because I'm not the kind of person like people. I don't think anyone would ever say Nika is such a rebel, but I really am.
But
Like
I
I
know you.
don't. What was that?
But I know you.
You know me.
Yeah, in a quiet, sweet way.
Yes. I think that when you think of rebel, you think of someone who comes out and is like, I'm not going to follow life's rules. But yet that is who I am. But like you said, in a quiet, sweet way. In other words, I don't believe it all comes down to realizing that all of the rules that society teaches us, that our parents teach us, that the schools teach us, all of the rules of how we're supposed to be are made up by another human being who or it just came about like these are not actual rules that we have to follow. I always think like we have to follow the law because we want to live a good life, but all the other rules in life are just made up. So why do you
It's just arbitrary by people who are just as clueless, if not more so.
exactly.
So you repudiated the whole thing.
Yes.
That's
And the
it.
truth, but yet, like, I live a pretty normal traditional life. I live in the suburbs. I'm married with a kid. I live in a house. Like, so like I look like I'm just a follower of rules, but those things I wanted for myself. I actually chose them, not because I was told to live that way.
You're a closet
And
rebel.
what was that?
You're a closet rebel.
I'm a closet rebel. Yes.
You're a rebel in sheep's clothing.
Okay.
Well,
I'm a rebel in flannel.
let's take a look at some of the decisions you made, because if nothing, you were nothing if you weren't very overt about this. So at a certain point, you decided that you were not going to keep this quiet. Many people do. Many people will keep a cancer diagnosis quiet. But you decided to just come out, to be out.
Yeah.
And was that something you came to very quickly, or is that just a natural extension of who you are and who you've decided to be? How did you come up with that idea?
I On the one hand, I think it is a natural extension of who I am. I like to share. I As someone who has grown a business using online, I I have always looked into what you should share and what helps you grow your personal brand. And getting a cancer diagnosis was just another thing in life and life in business.
Was it just more fodder for content? I mean, that
Yeah.
sounds horrible.
It does sound horrible, and yet sometimes when something happens that's bad, one of my thoughts, I always think like, what is the gem in this? What is the silver lining that I could focus on to help me not go into misery? And sometimes one of the gems is, oh, some more content I can post. And even though it sounds horrible, sometimes it actually just helps you feel better by coming up with more content that you can share. And it does if it can inspire other people, it can help you as well. But of course, it's not, it wasn't like, oh good, I have cancer, I have more content to put out. But
Hey, woo-hoo.
but that was something that did help me get through it. Sharing
Understood.
what I was going through, like looking for, if I thought to myself, how can I find ways to inspire others because I'm going through this? When everything is going really well, it's actually harder to help others or inspire others. In other
Mm,
words, like, well, sure, everything's good for you. Like, it's easy for you. Everything is
right.
good. But when things are tough, if you can find things to smile at, to laugh at, to feel good about, that will help other people. It inspires others. So, wanting to continue to be online and sharing forced me to look for things that were good. So,
Understood. Yeah.
it
And
was,
this way also you get to say, ha, look at you. You're complaining about some nonsense. I've got real problems.
yeah, and I didn't really feel that because I wanna complain about nonsense often as well. But honestly, I think it's like, circumstances, the things that are out of our control are neutral. They're not good or bad until we write the story about it.
Right.
And cancer is just like it's raining out and my baseball game was canceled. Like, they're both circumstances out of our control. We tend to we've decided that one is much worse than another, but I honestly think we can write our own stories.
Right.
And
Now, by the way, and you are an expert content person. You live half your life online. So I am remiss. I think every like 2 minutes, one of us needs to say, if you're just joining us here, do not turn that dial. I mean, this is good stuff, by the way. Objectively speaking, if anyone wants to be inspired, you are the ultimate inspirer. You are the ultimate enabler of people. That has a double entendre thing. But nobody should miss this. I feel like everybody needs to see this because it's a unique circumstance. What is it? 1 out of every 3 people are going to become diagnosed with cancer. Is that correct?
I don't have all the it changes unfortunately
Yeah.
often, but I don't have the numbers. I wish I did. You should have told me to have that.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I got it just off the top of my head.
Thank
So
you. Then
yeah.
it's true. If
Okay.
it
Good.
says it on the internet, it's
It's
true.
a lot of people. But obviously your story is not about cancer per se. That was the challenge that led you to kind of really uh, formalize your thoughts on life and on how to play it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it, and I think I would love to inspire people to not have to go through something so challenging or so
Right.
difficult that to so anything in your life can force you to come up with this philosophy that you can choose to write your own stories, to think your own thoughts, to feel how you want to feel in order to take action and live the life you want. And you can do that now today, whether you have something tough going on or not.
Mm.
Just
Nika,
decide.
tell me this. When you decided to live so publicly, I mean, you basically, put you and yourself and your family to some degree into this fishbowl.
Hmm.
Did you get any pushback from that? Well, it's a two-part question. There are two things I want to ask. First of all, is how did you deal with the vulnerability of that? And secondly, did you get pushback either internally or from your family or followers?
Okay. So how did I deal with
Okay.
the vulnerability? It first because, and I've said this before, like how I was able to get through something that most people would say is horrific with laughter and positivity. I believe it's because I practiced that kind of philosophy with
With
stuff
the
that wasn't
small things.
with small things. So
Yes.
if you practice, which is why I encourage everyone to practice choosing your thoughts and your emotions when small challenges happen. When you immediately instinctually feel anger or feel, and I'm not saying you shouldn't feel anger, because sometimes anger and sometimes sadness are the right choices,
Right.
but deliberately choose them. And if you practice that with small things, it is a little easier when big things happen. And I think the same thing is true with sharing my story online. I would share if, something like I can't find a piece of mail that I need, I might share that situation and try to find the silver lining. And because I always want to share my personal brand, which is look for the gem, look for the silver lining, find the funny. So I always was sharing that. And so it didn't feel very different to be sharing my cancer journey. What was different is that I looked different. Like I couldn't do my hair and makeup because I had no hair and no eyelashes. So like I just, and I could have spent extra time trying to look, putting on a wig, getting false eyelashes, like trying to look a certain way. But it just wasn't worth it. And it really helped me to just be who I was. And I guess that it inspired me to stop caring so much and to realize it taught me that when you are totally yourself and imperfect, that's when you help other people. And again, more practice. It is hard for everyone to be vulnerable on video, online, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's just
Did you ever second guess that? Were there areas of your life that you said, no, that is not yours, I'm not sharing that, that is mine?
totally. There
Like
were
what, for example?
I'm trying to think, and I don't want to say that I didn't share the negative, because I did. When I wasn't feeling good, I shared that as well as when I was feeling happy and finding fun things to laugh at. I shared tough, but like I guess physically, honestly, it's whatever was within my brand I shared, but like sharing physically feeling like nauseous and
Mm,
like the physical weird things that I'm like, I would say I don't feel good, but I wouldn't share the details of it because I didn't feel like that did anything positive for anyone.
fair enough. Yeah, I get that. Now, did you get pushback again, either from your family who was sort of kind of dragged into that to some degree, or from any of your followers? Were people like, that's unseemly? The word I used before, exhibitionist. I mean, did you hear any of that stuff?
I got very little pushback. I think that because I shared my own story and I wasn't sharing my family story without their permission. Like when my daughter would say something or do something, I would ask her permission if I could share it. And my husband is certainly not public like I am. So if he wasn't in most of my videos, but if he was, it was because he chose to be and he wanted to share. So there was, there's not a lot of pushback because this is who I am. It's my choice. And so I'm sharing me. I think probably my mom was the most concerned because she's very concerned about uh
Hi, Roberta. I don't
hi
think your mom's happy with me now, but that's a different story. Go ahead.
because you made fun of her last time.
I didn't make fun of her. It was my impression of what I thought someone who happened to be your mother might sound like.
Yeah, but she is more concerned with that perfection and like looking the right way and being appropriate. I think that's probably the word.
Mm,
She was worried that I wasn't being appropriate, and she never really came out and said don't do that. But I know she was concerned until I just was happy like it turned out
right.
this was good and it actually helped me and then it was fine. And followers were, I would say, 99% supportive and positive, and the people who weren't really, I wouldn't call them followers. I'd call them strangers and trolls, and that didn't matter.
Fair enough. Yes. Now, social media, I don't have to tell you, social media can be an absolute cesspool.
Mhm.
So you did have some small percentage of that, but since you worship people, by the way, do appreciate vulnerability in others. People appreciate sharing their stories. Did a lot of people reach out to you and say, oh my God, I've been through a similar thing, or I'm currently going through that? And what was the contribution that they told you that you were making to them?
Yes, they did, which is why I continued to do this and why I wrote the book. It just felt like it needed to inspire more people because what I was being told was, thank you. This has helped me. Several moms reached out and said, thank you. You're helping my child who's going through something. Basically, it was for people who were going through something similar. They were feeling seen, and that's one thing that we all need. I need to feel understood and seen, but also they were saying, thank you, this was so tough and now it helped me find fun things to look at. It helped me, it raised my spirits. And then people who weren't going through something similar were saying, like what you said, like, oh, I was complaining about my day and now I'm finding things to laugh at. Or, I'm realizing, if she could do it, I could do it. And that's really, it just felt good. It fueled me to just keep putting out more.
Hmm. You mentioned find the funny before. So give me like the funniest thing that happened during that whole journey.
I wish I had so many more coming to mind, but I know the funniest thing, which was what kind of launched me into viral videos, was when I kept forgetting that I lost my hair. So the first few weeks of when after my hair came out, I had to shave my head and then I had no hair. I kept doing things that people who like for my whole life I had long hair, and there were things that people with hair do. You look for the clip to pull your hair up so that you can wash your face. You put on your shirt and you pull your hair out. You lean forward and you go like, you put your hair behind your ear. Like you
Listen, I know
naturally,
what you're talking about. I
yeah,
I
yeah,
yeah,
because
I have
you
to
have,
go through all that myself.
yeah. Muscle memory is really what it is. And just keep doing the things that you're used to doing. And each time I would do something and then quickly realize there's no hair there, I thought this is really funny. Like, and let me find more things. So I kept looking for more things. And so I kept recording more things like, oh, what else am I doing? And I'd look for things. My favorite, the one that went the most viral was I recorded myself walking out of the shower. I had a towel on, of course. I implied I was walking out of the shower. And what I always did was flip my big hair upside down and put a towel over it to dry
Right.
my hair.
Yeah, that turban thing that women can do. It's amazing.
Yes. So I flipped my head upside down and then went, oh, yeah, there's nothing to flip. But I think the idea of a naked bald woman starting a video captured people's attention, which helped me because I teach people how to make video. And so I call that the naked bald woman method, where the beginning of your video needs to capture people's attention. And so what is your naked bald woman? Like, come up with that for yourself.
Preferably, it's not being actually naked and bald.
Right. You don't have to be naked or bald or even a woman.
Well,
but
thank God. What a relief that is.
Good. I'm glad.
I've got the bald going. Nika, this is what I want to know from you. That when you were thinking, obviously you wrote the book in order to tell your story, in order to inspire others. I think that goes without saying, right? But when you closed your eyes and dreamed about it, if you allowed yourself to do this, what was the very best case for you that you were hoping for as a result of writing this book?
Wow. A lot of people have asked, so do you want to be a coach, a cancer coach? Do you want to help people getting through these situations? And I have to say, I do not. I was not writing this book in order to grow a business around the topic of the book, but I do enjoy telling stories that inspire others, that make them have a happier, better life, for them to feel better about themselves and about what they're going through, and to realize that they have the choice to write their own story. So what I see is I would like to be an international speaker, a motivational speaker, a keynote speaker, helping at big events, at corporations, to help people with resilience, to make better decisions and be more productive because resilience affects so many areas in our life. And so I think that's what I'm looking to do, a best-selling author speaker.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, right? So I have a book also, and it's not like on yours, and I just kind of give it away for free. It's a PDF kind of deal. And and I was thinking, in my mind, my book is called Keeping the Weight Off.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the perfect scenario for me is that everyone in the world who's ever lost weight reads it, and all of them never gain a pound again. And then I am therefore revered as the guy who changed it all, right? So it's very grandiose. It's like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And for
I love
you,
it.
yeah, and for you, I was thinking like, well, the ultimate thing for you would be, yes, you're inspiring people on an individual basis. And on a macro basis, there's this whole new age of resilience. And you have these followers who are like evangelicals. The ironic thing, the crazy thing about social media is that as your audience gets more intense and larger, then basically you become a cult leader.
Mm,
The best case
fun.
scenario is you being Charles Manson.
That's the best case scenario.
That's what you're aiming for. Or if you're going to be a benevolent cult leader, maybe Taylor Swift. But
Okay.
it's one or the other. Those are the polls. There are very few options there.
I'm not sure which I would prefer, but I do like that. And so you're right. That was missing in what I was describing, is like that, to be revered and put on a pedestal for having changed, rewritten the rules of resilience. That's what
Everything is different from this point forward as a result of you rewriting the story. But have you had people who have followed you, I guess, with that kind of intensity? Are you now a thought leader on a different level? Are people coming to you with their issue? I mean, How far has it progressed right now?
Well, anyone who knows someone who suddenly gets a cancer diagnosis, they immediately write to me. Can you talk to my friend, or can we talk? But I do, but like we were saying, I don't want this to be about cancer. I really
Right.
honestly, so my goal is to show people that this has nothing to do with cancer. Cancer is one of the circumstances that may
Will you
occur.
talk to them? Will you speak to them?
Of
And have
course,
you? Okay,
I definitely have.
got it.
And I don't, I hope that there's not, it would be nice if no one reached out because no one gets the diagnosis. But I'm happy to speak to people. It's, when it needs to be scalable and leverageable. So if it's friends and family, obviously I talk to them. But in order to reach more people, that's why the book is out. And that's why I'd love to do speaking and videos and just
Have you had
share.
opportunities? Are people reaching out for
Yes,
you
and I
to
have some
tell
I
me?
have some speaking gigs planned, and I have done several, since the book came out a few weeks ago, and we have many more planned, and I that's my goal, is to have many more, and that's what I'm working on.
I might show up and be one of those super fans I'm referencing right now.
You better be, I expect it.
Do you have evangelicals? Do you have people quoting you to either yourself or to others? I mean, and is there a possibility to capitalize on that somewhere? Can you create a coaching system, for example, based
Well,
on these rules of resilience?
absolutely. I feel like it would be very easy for me to take, like, the 5 steps of this blueprint, like the blueprint of the anti steps to conquering adversity. And
The
I talk
anti-steps.
the anti like what we're taught is to go through the stages of grief.
Right.
And I'm like, that those are rules that you don't have to follow. So I have different rules and
So
ways.
have you reversed those? I mean, are you so what's the first stage of grief? Not like non-belief or something?
Yeah, and there's anger
Rejection?
in there. Yeah, and you don't
Yeah,
get to.
rejection, anger. So it's basically kind of a ladder to hell. So
Mhm.
you've reversed that. So with you, it's starting with amusement and going up to like orgasm. Is that how it's working?
Yeah, something like.
Okay, good. I like that.
And again, I most of the time when I'm talking about this, it sounds like you could turn everything into happiness, and it's not supposed to always be happy. There's lots of supposedly negative emotions that we need to go through. Again, it's all our choice. All of this is that it is if we deliberately choose, that's when we live a better life. We can choose anger, we could choose depression, we can choose sadness, we could, all of that is part of living, and appropriate, if that, in different circumstances depending on what you want. So, but all our choice. We live our life and feel and think what we want.
I think I have two more questions for you.
Okay.
And I hate to say that because that means I'm going to forget at least one of them. Maybe both. I've already forgotten it. It's got good night. Thanks for coming.
Bye, everyone.
I had to talk about that. Um, if somebody, so you said people have been contacting you, right? And largely it's about cancer, but theoretically, someone can contact you regarding anything. A divorce, they've lost their job, etc. What is the first thing or first 3 things you will tell them to do while they're in this kind of devastated state?
The first thing that I tend to forget, and I think this is the most important thing, is, like, rather than go right into, like, the steps to resilience, we need to give ourselves permission to just be in the state that we're in. Even though I truly believe and like to follow the idea that what comes after the circumstance is our story, our thoughts, our words that we use to describe what is happening. That is that's what leads to the emotion. But it's okay to just have emotion that happens instinctually and give ourselves permission to be okay with that. Because if we fight it, it will last longer and we'll feel guilty, and we'll just feel worse. So the first thing is just be okay feeling however you
Well,
feel, because
for how long should people indulge that, though?
there is no answer
Of
to
course,
that.
there's not, but I had to ask you anyway.
It totally. I think the more you give yourself permission to feel it, the shorter that happens, that then you can start being okay with deliberately choosing to write the story or the thoughts about that situation. But it's really, if something, and something happened to me last year, a situation, and I thought, well, I've gone through cancer. Everything will be easy from now on. I always say it's not chemo. Chemo was like the hardest thing I've ever gone through. And if something's happening, I could just say it's not chemo. It's so much easier. But it felt harder. And I kept trying to feel better right away. And it lasted a long time. And
Mm.
one day I realized, oh, I'm allowed to feel this way. This is what I'm feeling right now. And as soon as I said that, it got a little easier. And then I think the minute you do that, it eases it a little. It doesn't mean it goes away and suddenly you feel better, but it makes it easier to then go into the steps, which are choose your thoughts that lead to feelings, that encourage actions, that lead to results. And before you do all those things, you decide, what do you actually want? So then you can choose the story and the emotions and the actions.
And if anyone is just happening upon us now, they're lost. They wanted to listen to Joe Rogan or something. They came across us. Do not leave. This is really good stuff.
And
I
go
mean,
buy the
Nika,
book.
yeah, and of course buy the book. I'm supposed to say that also, I think, but Nika is dropping knowledge. She's doing it old school. So and really the part we're at now is the part where we are getting down to the brass tacks about there are these steps, or at least there are these mechanics whereby you should first allow yourself to feel whatever is there, because if you resist it, it's liable to last longer. If you suppress it, it's not going to work. And then we can start writing our own story. Now, do you mean physically sit down and write it out, or do you mean just make a decision within your own heart?
Yeah, I don't mean, for some people, journaling and writing is helpful. I've always wished I was a journaler and I'm not good at it.
You
So
wrote a book, Nika.
oh yeah, but I'm not.
You blog every day.
Yeah, but you're right. But sitting and writing a story, you're right. I wrote a book. I don't know. I'm not a journaler. I don't sit and write my feelings and my thoughts. I created a journal that goes along with the book that encourages other people to write, but I'm not, it's not my favorite thing to do. So I'll do it in my head, or on video and like in Facebook posts. But you're right. So that for me is my journaling. So what I do mean, to answer your question, is I don't mean sit down and write it unless that works for you. What I mean is come up with the thought that is that will lead to the feeling that works for you. So the first thing is to deliberately come up with your thoughts, your words that you will use, the story that you are writing about the situation that you can't control.
Nika, a book is only like part of what you've done. I mean, you created a whole bunch of stuff around this, a lot of ancillary products, and all of them have great utility, I would think, because I know you. I have looked at one of them, I told you, and the rest I haven't like clicked on, but just based on the titles, I know there's something good there. What are some of the ancillary things that you've created, and which are the ones that you would most highly recommend? And by the way, that's not the question I want to answer you, but I want to ask you, but that's what came up in the moment.
Okay, yeah. I mean, when you are reading the book, there are these little things that say, "Oh, and if you want more, go grab this." This extra, like I have checklists and
You've created
journaling.
a system. It sounds like you've created a system, not just a book. Would you
Yeah.
agree
So
with that?
the system, and it starts with the counterintuitive approach to conquering adversity, and it shares kind of the blueprint, which are the steps of, writing your story, finding the funny, sharing your story, all the things that I did because I always did them, and then realized this is how I got through a tough situation with so much more ease and positivity. So I'm sharing all of those steps with you.
Good. And as far as the actual ancillary products, like, can you name a couple and what they're good
Um,
for?
Can I wish I could. There
Yeah,
is
offhand, it's hard, right?
on the spot. There's a whole page of them, and you get them all for free with the book. There is a find the funny journal, so it helps you find the amusement in your situation. There is an AI app that I created where you put in your story and it will help you find the gems, the silver linings in your difficult situation.
You see,
Which
I love that, Nika, and again, Diana Prince is a really apt metaphor for you because I mean, a lot of people write books. They lay out the philosophy, but you have these tools that people could use because there are going to be people who say, "Well, I get the idea, but how do I actually implement that? How do I put it into action?" Now, you didn't take that for granted that people are going to be able to do that. You've given tools.
Yeah, I mean, it would be sad to me if someone just said, "Oh, that was a nice book, but I can't use it." Yeah, I think I love teaching. My life and my businesses have always been, if I look at all the different businesses that I've created and launched, it's always been that I do something, usually by accident. It works, or it does. If it works, I then want to teach it to others. And I love teaching. And then typically people will say, "Can you just do it for me?" And so, like this app, instead of you trying to, like, I taught you how to find the silver linings, but then if you can't do it, just use this app, type it in, and I'll give you the answer.
There's an app for that.
There's an app.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you suck at finding the silver linings. You're negative, right? And you're always looking at what's wrong. So use this damn app and get happy
Exactly.
already. Okay, so here's what I want to know also, and this is probably my last question, unless you say something that's so provocative that I then have to ask you 10 more.
Okay.
Okay, so you've been on this journey, and let's say starting from the diagnosis, where you've decided to help other people. So you've written this book, you've created all these other resources, you're founding what may turn into a movement. And God knows we need a good movement. We've had a lot of bad movements,
Yeah.
uh, like bowel movements. But anyway,
It's not always bad.
yeah, I don't want to get scatological right now.
Okay.
So my question, I think you've done a tremendous job. Grade yourself. How well have you done in putting all this together, and how well are you doing? And granted, it's not at the end point, but grade yourself so far.
Um, I'm going to say a B. I'm grading myself at a B.
Now,
I
why
think
is that? Are you being, humble? Why is it a B?
it's a B because I mean, I guess because we haven't it's the journey, of course, we haven't reached an end or all the results yet, but I know that there's so much more that I can be doing, and on the one hand, I give
I
myself
feel like,
permission.
yeah,
What?
I feel like you need to change your story about this, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
interrupting.
and then it's not really putting myself down. The truth is I know that there's more that I will be doing. And so maybe next week when we talk, it'll be an A or an A plus, but I haven't been doing certain things up until now. And and I give myself permission to have days where I don't feel like doing extra stuff. And I've been very busy and a lot of things are
Like
going on.
lunch, you and I need to have lunch next week, for
Okay, we're
example,
gonna
and
do
don't do
that.
anything else while we're having lunch.
We can't. Okay, we'll have lunch and then we'll discuss how we're gonna, create our movements and
I'm
be
I'm part of it now.
great. And I'm part of yours, so we could be cult leaders that enjoy each other's cult.
I'll be Manson, you be Taylor.
Excellent.
If anyone is just tuning in and just heard that, it's really not like that. There's a whole context around that.
Although it
Okay,
sort
good.
of is.
I'm sorry?
Although it sort of is like that.
Yeah, it sort of is like that. Listen, I do want people to, I'm generally not humble about content that I create. Like, I think it's all good. So I do videos every week, and every week I choose a different topic, and it's mostly around the subject of weight loss. But of course, weight loss is never just about weight loss. It's never just about, these are the steps. If it was that easy, there wouldn't be 70% overweight and obesity in this country. So obviously, the mental game comes in, inspiration comes in, and all these other things. But this is a video that I do want to get out there. And by the way, I hate shameless promotion, but I think shameless promotion right now is very appropriate.
I don't
I
think
think
there's any
people,
shame. So
huh?
there's
I'm
no shame.
ashamed right now. No, this is distasteful to me. But I'm doing it anyway because I do believe it. I think you've made a great contribution to the body of self-help, if that's what we want to call it, books that are out there, and ways to think and ways to conceive. And I think people should purchase your book, should take advantage of what you have to offer, and should probably have you come out and speak. Though I can't judge that yet. I'm going to have to, before I really promote that, I'm going to have to come out and listen to you speak first.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, is that fair?
And you'll be blown away.
I expect to be. Nothing
Good.
else would anyway, enough of this. So that's going to be it for this week, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Feel free to send this, share this with anyone you know. And Nika, let's stay on so we could coordinate our lunch. How's that?
Excellent. Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Take care.